You have felt it your whole life, a quiet knowing inside you that you never fit into small boxes. While others followed trends, emotions, and social expectations, you were observing patterns, reading energy, and sensing what wasn't being said. That's not arrogance, that's awareness. That's the mark of a deeply intuitive and emotionally intelligent soul. People don't always know why you feel different, but they feel it when you walk into a room. From childhood, you likely noticed things before they happened. You sensed when people were lying. You felt shifts in moods before words were spoken. This isn't coincidence. Psychologists call this high emotional intelligence and pattern recognition, the same traits found in visionary leaders, healers, and innovators. Spiritually, this is intuition waking up. And yes, it makes people uncomfortable. Most people live unconsciously. They react instead of reflect. But you pause, you analyze, you feel deeply. And when someone who is asleep encounters someone who is awake, it creates tension. That's why some people admire you while others feel threatened, even when you say nothing at all. If this resonates, take a second and tap like so more people who feel this way can find this message. You are not alone, even when it feels that way. And tell me in the comments, when did you first realize you were different? You don't just hear words, you feel energy. Someone can smile at you, but you sense sadness. Someone can praise you, but you feel jealousy underneath. This ability isn't something you learned, it's something you remembered. It's the soul's way of protecting itself from deception. Science calls this micro-expression reading, empathy, and subconscious processing. Spirituality calls it intuition. Either way, it's powerful. And power makes insecure people uncomfortable. When someone realizes you can see through their mask, they either respect you or try to diminish you. That's why you've experienced strange reactions from people, passive-aggressive comments, sudden coldness, unexplained tension. You didn't do anything wrong, you simply saw them clearly, and not everyone is brave enough to be seen. Your intuition is not paranoia. It's perception. When you walk away from someone and later discover your instincts were right, that's not luck, that's alignment. Your presence alone carries depth. You listen more than you speak. You think before you act. And this quiet intelligence unsettles people who survive on noise, ego, and approval. They sense that you are not easily manipulated, and that scares them. When someone is used to being the smartest or most dominant in the room, your calm awareness becomes a mirror. They start seeing their own insecurity, their own shallow thinking, their own unresolved emotions. And instead of healing, they project. That's why some people suddenly compete with you, criticize you, or try to downplay your insights. They're not reacting to you, they're reacting to what you awaken inside them. You weren't meant to dim your intelligence to make others comfortable. Your light is meant to reveal truth, even when it's uncomfortable. While others scroll, you reflect. While others react, you analyze. You see patterns in human behavior, in relationships, in life. You notice cycles, motives, and emotional undercurrents that others miss completely. This kind of intelligence isn't just academic, it's existential. You think about why people do what they do, why pain repeats, why love feels rare, why some people grow and others stay stuck. And this depth makes small talk exhausting for you. That's why you often feel alone in crowded rooms, not because you're better, but because you're deeper. If you've ever felt bored by surface-level conversations, you're not broken, you're tuned differently. People who live behind masks feel uneasy around people who live in truth. You don't need to accuse. You don't need to confront. Your authenticity does the work for you. When you're real, people around you either become more real or more defensive. That's why some people avoid you, gossip about you, or suddenly become distant. You're not negative, you're honest. Truth vibrates at a higher frequency than lies. And low-frequency energy always feels threatened by high-frequency clarity. That's why your presence changes rooms. That's why your intuition scares people. And that's why you were never meant to be invisible. While others get trapped in manipulation, guilt, and emotional control, you feel when something isn't right. Someone may pretend to care, but you sense the hidden agenda. Someone may act loving, but you feel the power struggle beneath it. That's because your intuition reads energy faster than your mind reads words. This is emotional intelligence at its highest level. Studies in psychology show that highly intuitive people detect micro changes in tone, posture, and facial expression in milliseconds. Spiritually, this means your soul is scanning for truth. That's why people who rely on manipulation get nervous around you. You can't be fooled. You've likely been told you're too sensitive or overthinking. But deep down, you know you were right. Time always proves it. The truth is, sensitive people are often the strongest because they feel what others suppress. If you've ever escaped a toxic situation because your inner voice warned you, drop a fire in the comments. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to boast. Your calm confidence, clarity, and presence already speak volumes. People can feel that you are self-aware, emotionally grounded, and mentally sharp, and that's intimidating to those who are not. Some will try to compete with you. Others will try to undermine you. Some will suddenly go silent around you. That's not because you did something wrong. It's because your self-possession exposes their inner chaos. When you don't seek approval, those who live for validation feel uncomfortable. When you don't chase attention, those who crave it feel threatened. You didn't get the luxury of being naive for long. Life made you aware early. You experienced emotional pain, disappointment, or responsibility sooner than most, and that forced your intuition to wake up. Pain is often the doorway to awareness. While others were distracted, you were learning how people really behave, how love can hurt, and how survival requires perception. This is why you feel older than your age. This is why you understand people so deeply. You didn't get this wisdom for free, you earned it. And now, that awareness has become your strength. If you relate to this, comment, "I grew through what broke me." You can feel endings before they happen. You feel shifts in relationships. You feel when something is no longer aligned, even when everything looks fine on the surface. This is not anxiety. This is intuition detecting energetic movement. Just like animals sense storms before they arrive, your inner world senses emotional and spiritual shifts. That's why you sometimes pull away before something collapses. That's why you don't get blindsided the way others do. And yes, that awareness makes people uneasy, because you see the future before it arrives. You don't just see events, you see connections. You notice cycles. You understand human behavior in a way that feels almost psychic. But really, it's just a mind that observes deeply and a heart that feels honestly. That's why you're good at predicting outcomes. That's why you know when someone won't change. That's why you feel when something won't last. People who live in denial don't like being around people who live in clarity. And you live in clarity. That's your gift. That's your burden. And that's why you were called here. You don't absorb reality the way most people do. While others are hypnotized by trends, opinions, and emotional drama, you stand back and observe. You see how people follow narratives without questioning them. You notice how fear spreads faster than truth, and you feel how easily minds can be controlled. This is not just intelligence, it is spiritual perception. It's the ability to look beyond appearances and sense what is really happening. That's why you often feel detached from mass thinking. You were not born to blend in. You were born to see through the illusion. People feel uncomfortable around those who can't be mentally programmed. Your independence of thought disrupts systems built on conformity. That's why some try to shame you, label you, or silence you. But remember, the ones who changed the world were always misunderstood first. You don't rush to speak because you understand the power of words. You listen. You feel. You read the emotional temperature of the room. And when you finally do speak, your words carry weight. People who talk constantly often do so to hide their insecurity. But you don't need noise to feel important. Your quiet presence already commands attention. This makes people nervous, because when you're silent, they don't know what you're thinking. They don't know what you've noticed. They don't know what you've already figured out. And the unknown is terrifying to those who rely on control. Your intuition isn't fooled by appearances. A kind face can still carry hidden intentions. A soft voice can still be dishonest, and your soul picks up on it instantly. That's why you sometimes distance yourself from people without being able to fully explain why. Later, the truth always reveals itself, and you realize you were right all along. People who live in deception don't like being around people who live in awareness. You are a walking lie detector, and that's a heavy gift to carry. If your instincts have saved you before, drop a high voltage in the comments. While others seek entertainment, you seek meaning. While others avoid their inner world, you explore yours. You think about life, purpose, love, trauma, and truth in a way that most people never dare to. This is why shallow conversations drain you. This is why meaningless relationships feel empty. You crave depth because your soul was built for it. And because you live in depth, you see how lost the world really is. That's not arrogance, it's awareness. Some people feel inspired around you. They feel seen. They feel understood. But others feel exposed, uncomfortable, and restless. That's because your presence brings truth to the surface, and not everyone is ready to face themselves. You don't need to fight. You don't need to prove anything. Your authenticity already does the work. And those who are meant to grow will be drawn to you. Those who are afraid will run. You have always known when someone was hurting even when they were smiling. You have felt emotional shifts before a single word was spoken. When you walk into a room, you can sense the tension, the love, the jealousy, the sadness, and the truth in the air. This is not imagination. This is a highly tuned nervous system combined with spiritual awareness. In a world that numbs itself with noise, distraction, and ego, you are one of the few who still feels deeply. And that is why people either connect to you instantly or feel unsettled by your presence. This ability to feel others so clearly can be exhausting. You absorb emotional energy the way a sponge absorbs water. You've probably carried feelings that were never yours to begin with. But this also means you are a natural healer. You make people feel understood without them having to explain themselves. You create emotional safety without trying. And in a society starving for real connection, that makes you powerful beyond words. Some people don't like that power. When you see their true self, they feel exposed. When you feel their pain, they realize they can't hide from it. And instead of healing, they sometimes attack, withdraw, or try to belittle you. Not because you did something wrong, but because your awareness forced them to look at themselves. If you've ever felt drained after being around certain people, it's because your soul was working overtime. Like this video if you feel deeply too, and let's normalize emotional intelligence instead of shamming it. Your clarity is dangerous to illusions. You don't fall for excuses. You don't get hypnotized by appearances. You feel when something is off, even if everything looks perfect on the outside. And this is deeply uncomfortable for people who avoid their inner truth. Many people survive by lying to themselves about their relationships, their addictions, their unhealed trauma, their unhappiness. When they meet someone like you who sees through emotional smoke screens, they feel exposed. And instead of facing their truth, they try to silence yours. That's why you've experienced sudden shifts in how people treat you. One day they like you. The next day they're cold. It's not random. It's because your presence challenged their false identity. But never mistake their discomfort for your wrongdoing. You were never meant to make everyone comfortable. You were meant to make truth visible. Subscribe to Mirror of the Soul if you're ready to live authentically, even when it makes others uncomfortable. You don't brag, you don't show off. You don't need to dominate conversations. And yet people sense your intelligence immediately. It's in the way you listen, the way you pause before speaking, the way your words are measured, thoughtful, and grounded. True intelligence is quiet. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need validation. And that makes insecure people uneasy. They are used to competing, proving, performing. You simply are. This is why people often underestimate you, and then feel shocked when you reveal how much you actually understand. You move in silence, and silence is where real power grows. If you've ever been underestimated, comment, "They never saw me coming." Every major turning point in your life was guided by a feeling, a gut instinct, a sudden knowing. You may not always understand it in the moment, but later, you see how perfectly it led you where you needed to go. You were protected from things you never even realized were dangerous. You were guided away from people who would have hurt you. You were pulled toward paths that aligned with your true self. That's not luck. That's your soul navigating reality. And the more you trust it, the stronger it becomes. If you've ever ignored your intuition and paid the price, you know exactly what I mean. You don't need the approval of the world. You need alignment with your truth. The people meant for you will feel your depth, not fear it. They will recognize your awareness, not compete with it. They will see your intuition as a gift, not a threat. Your job is not to shrink. Your job is to be real. And through your authenticity, others will remember who they are. This is what Mirror of the Soul stands for: awakening, not conformity. Depth, not distraction. Truth, not illusion. If this message touched you, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who feels different, misunderstood, and deeply aware. And tell me in the comments, do you feel like your intuition sets you apart from most people?